Today we are covering one of the most heavily tested topics on the FAA Part 107 exam, airspace classes A through G. Understanding where you can and cannot fly is not just a regulatory requirement. It's the core of being a safe and professional remote pilot. The exam will absolutely present you with snippets of a sectional chart and ask you to identify the airspace and its requirements. Let's start with the easiest, Class G, which is uncontrolled airspace. For Part 107 pilots, Class G is where you can generally operate without needing to get authorization from air traffic control. It typically extends from the surface up to the floor of the controlled airspace above it, which is often 700 or 1,200 feet above the ground. All other airspace, classes A, B, C, D, and E, is controlled, and flying in it usually requires permission. Let's get Class A out of the way immediately. It starts at 18,000 feet mean sea level, or MSL, and goes up to 60,000 feet. Your drone will never be there, so for the exam, just know it exists and it's for high-altitude, instrument-only flights. Now for the airspaces you will encounter. Class B, think B for big and busy, surrounds the nation's busiest airports. On a sectional chart, it's depicted by solid blue lines. It often looks like an upside-down wedding cake, with tiers that get wider as you go up. You absolutely must have authorization, typically through the LAANC system, to operate in Class B airspace. Next is Class C, which you can remember as C for crowded. It's around airports with a control tower and radar services, but less traffic than Class B. On a chart, you'll see solid magenta lines. Like Class B, it has a core surface area and a higher shelf area, and you must get LAANC authorization to fly here. Class D airspace is marked by a dashed blue line. It surrounds smaller airports with an active control tower. The key exam trap here is knowing that Class D airspace is only active when the tower is open. If the tower closes, it can revert to Class E or G, a detail often found in the chart supplement. Authorization is required to fly in Class D. Class E is the trickiest. Think E for everywhere else. It's the filler-controlled airspace. The exam will test you on how to identify its floor. A faded magenta line indicates the floor of Class E starts at 700 feet AGL. A faded blue line means it starts at 1,200 feet AGL. Since you're flying below 400 feet AGL, you're in Class G underneath it and don't need authorization. However, a dashed magenta line indicates Class E airspace starts at the surface. In this specific type of Class E, you do need LAANC authorization. This is a huge trap on the exam. A major point of confusion is MSL versus AGL. Airspace ceilings and floors on charts are in mean sea level, but your drone's altitude is limited to 400 feet above ground level. The exam will try to trick you with questions that require you to differentiate between these two measurements. For mnemonic, remember this for chart lines. Solid lines need a solid plan. Dashed lines mean permission is on demand. This helps you recall that the solid blue and magenta lines of Class B and C and the dashed blue and magenta lines of Class D and surface Class E all require you to get authorization before you fly. For free practice questions, AI-powered explanations, and more exam prep tools, visit openexamprep.com. That's openexamprep, all one word, .com.